Let's talk about our new release, which is Deadpool 2.
All right. So Deadpool follow I can not speak English today. Deadpool
Tell
follows the
tell
story of
everyone
Wade Wilson
tell everyone about your experience seeing it because it was kind of an interesting story.
with Deadpool 2.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
Deadpool
yeah.
2.
So I actually got to go see Deadpool 2 a week in advance because I had advance passes. So I got to see it before everyone else. So my whole review on the movie, I couldn't really put out or say anything about the movie because there was an embargo on it. So basically before like any other movie critic saw it, I was like one of the first people to see it. And when I saw the score on Rotten Tomatoes, I was like, yeah, that's about right. Deadpool 2 follows the story of Wade Wilson as Deadpool in the second movie, and it follows things he does. And that's all I will say about Deadpool 2 because I don't want to spoil it at this very moment. And I will say Deadpool 2 was a pretty decent movie. It was really good. If you like the first Deadpool, you're going to like Deadpool 2. Jackson, what did you think of Deadpool 2?
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I was talking to a friend yesterday, and he told me he really liked the first Deadpool movie, but he did not like the new one. And his reasoning is actually like decent, and I agree with his opinion on that. These are two fairly different movies. Now, are they like similar in terms of like tone and like ideas and in like a sense of humor? Yes. I mean, like it's Deadpool. It is if you liked the sense of humor in the first movie and you liked the sort of like type of fourth wall breaking character stuff from the first movie, like it's all there. But the plot of this movie definitely, I think, takes a different sort of direction than
It
the
does.
first one. Like it's very much a I don't know if it's a sign maybe that Fox is kind of leaning more towards there's sort of that thing right now with them maybe being bought by Disney. This film, while it still had the raunchiness and the craziness and all that stuff you love about Deadpool from the first movie, the story felt a lot more kind of like a typical like sort of superhero movie type of moral dilemma, but with Deadpool in it, which was interesting and different, I think, from the
Yeah.
first movie.
I will say about the tone of the movie, there's many different types of tonalities that are in this movie. Whereas in the first movie, that had one basic tone, which was just to be like raunchy, pretty much.
True, but I think the first movie definitely had some different tones too. I mean,
They
the
don't stand
scenes
out.
where the scenes where he gets his powers and like basically he goes through all that torture in the first movie. That's some pretty dark stuff compared to the
It
rest of the
is,
movie, which is
but
like more
here's the
comical and
thing.
lighthearted.
Here's the thing. It's that is there, but I think the raunchiness and like comedic tones going into that scene kind of overpower it.
Yeah, it's I mean, and even
That's
in
why
this
I say it's one
movie,
basic tone.
yeah, and I mean in this movie too, there is sort of that humor that does interrupt that really serious tone. Um, I feel like it was a little more seamless in the first movie. This one, there were kind of moments where like you do sort of get a little more invested in it, and then they sort of throw in a joke that like, yeah, is good because it's a Deadpool movie, but at the same time, it also like I wouldn't even say it like cheapens it at all. It does sort of jar you because just generally as a viewer, especially I mean even myself, I'll admit, like as a viewer, you like in terms of like how you feel when you're watching a movie, like a certain film's tone, like for a certain scene, will definitely just sort of make you feel a certain way, obviously. And when they sort of take that tone and like throw it out a little bit for a joke, it works for Deadpool, but it's still a little jarring. Whereas I think the first movie maybe just didn't go to as many extremes with the tones, so it felt like a little bit more like they kind of blended
Mhm.
better.
Yeah, there was definitely a high level of extremeness within the tone of this movie. And it's funny that you talk about the jokes too, and like what they go for in the movie, because I thought the jokes worked really, really well within the first act. And then you get to the second and third act, and it's like, okay, I get it. Like it's like the Wolverine jokes were kind of tiresome. A lot of the Marvel jokes were kind of tiresome, and the dubstep joke was kind of tiresome. So it just kind of gets tiresome within the second and third act of those movies. I mean of that movie. But it's still in a way it's weird because I'm tired of those jokes, but they still work.
Yeah, even the ones that like I didn't think were like overly clever or anything, I still found myself laughing at just because I think what this movie does really well is even though yeah, it's sort of got I'm not even gonna say like bad problems with its tone, but it has some small issues with its tone. Um, Despite that though, this movie is so much fun to watch. Like it still has that sense of fun that the first movie had, and in a way, I think it sort of improved some of its fun
Hmm.
because the first movie just I think there were just certain scenes in the first movie that I don't know. To me, they were just kind of bleak, and they sort of just felt like superhero origin-y. Whereas this movie, like, it doesn't have to worry with his like anything with his origin or these flashbacks or anything, and it just sort of tells one simple story, and it's a really fun story in my opinion.
It is like it's a really fun story that you're able to like follow along and you understand like it does there's something that happens in this movie towards the beginning and that sets a huge part of the tone for this movie. And so for the rest of the movie, there's more of a motivation for what he does than there was within the first movie. So that was a really great thing that they improved upon. But the biggest reason, the absolute biggest reason why I think Deadpool 1 is better than Deadpool 2 is Fire Fist.
Fire Fist.
Fire Fist. Fire Fist sucked.
You know, I've been hearing a lot of
He said
people like,
he wasn't good. I was the whole prison scene was boring.
yeah, I mean, okay, I'll put it like this: I didn't hate him. Like, he didn't really bother me, but he really didn't make the movie. Like, he didn't add anything, in my opinion, that perhaps a better actor or like
So bad.
a better written
So
character,
annoying.
because he wasn't written very well either. I mean, it wasn't just like the acting was bad, but like I didn't think he was written particularly like that well either. I mean, there was potential there with him, but um, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that he's sort of a weak spot in this movie, especially given that he's like the driving force for the plot.
I mean, yeah, he's
Why
a
would you make
big part of the plot.
why would you make the weakest character in the story like the driving force for the plot? I mean, he's like the second or third most important character in the movie.
Yeah. And it's funny too because he's 15, the actor's 15 years old and he's not allowed to see his own movie, like legally.
That's hilarious. I mean, I got nothing against the kid. Like, I mean,
No, I mean,
there's been worse child actors, but he was definitely kind
this
of
movie was pretty
miscast.
bad.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
again, I didn't hate him, but when you say he's bad, I'm not going to defend him because he was
yeah. And like,
bad.
then there was another scene in the movie that I thought was like really, it was like leading to a really awesome and great thing. It's when he forms like, and this is like spoiler warning, by the way, spoiler
This
warning.
movie's been out for like a few weeks now.
I know, but like, I'm just doing it just in case, you know. But anyway, spoiler warning. So there's a scene where he like Deadpool assembles a crew to take down and rescue Fire Fist and then take down Cable in the thick of it all. And Cable's the other character in the movie who's played brilliantly well by Josh Brolin. Really great
Josh
addition to the movie.
Brolin is just doing a lot of good things with Marvel these days.
He
That's
is,
all we can say.
yeah, he's a really great actor and underrated too. But he forms his team, and the team that was like one of my favorite scenes in the movie when he's actually like forming the team, and you see so many personalities like on that
That
team.
sequence is so good.
It's really
Like
great. And then
that
like
should have been the movie. Honestly, it really should have been the
they should
movie.
have. And then like you see them like jumping out the plane, and you're like, all right, I'm on. All right, this is exciting. I'm ready for all this. And then like a majority of them die. I was really disappointed. I was like, you could have done because like I understand like in the script, and it was actually kind of funny that happening, but
Mhm.
you could have done so much with all of that.
Yeah, I think I don't know them all dying, and again, spoiler warning, but people should have seen this by now. Uh,
Yeah,
them all dying, yeah, it's sort of some wasted potential, but I think they kept around the characters that needed to be there. And
Domino was kind of Domino was she had a cool concept
I
to
liked
her.
Domino. I liked her.
I just thought it wasn't. I mean, it was executed well, but not the best.
Yeah, I mean, she's not the best character in the movie, but I think overall she's good.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, there's definitely some missed potential there, but I think that just the gag was great, and it fit that movie so perfectly. So,
Yeah.
um, how long we been talking about this movie now, Ivan? Have you been keeping
We have
track?
5 more minutes left. We've been talking about it for 10 minutes.
Okay, yeah, I can talk about this for 5 more minutes.
I'm trying to like
Um,
find out this thing actually, because when they're actually assembling the team, I'm trying to see if like the Vanisher is like Brad Pitt, because I've seen it twice now.
yeah, I think he was.
I'm not sure if it was like a.
So now that we're in spoiler territory,
Yeah.
let me get to the ending of this movie. So, ending of the movie, Deadpool, quote unquote, dies, even though we know he's not going to actually die. And
Yeah.
uh,
It
you
was
know,
a really elongated. That was like another. It was a really elongated ending.
yeah, I thing is I don't think the ending was bad, but personally, I felt it was just really predictable. And even though the comedy's good, they just draw it out. This whole like Deadpool's dying scene like for so long, and then it
It is.
doesn't even really like amount to anything. And one issue I kind of had with this movie, especially with the ending, was that because of this whole time travel mechanic that is introduced with Cable, um, all of like the real like tension in the movie is kind of taken away at the end because it's like
Yeah.
uh his girlfriend who dies in the beginning of the movie, Vanessa, she is saved at the end because Deadpool uses time travel, and it was a cool sequence to see him actually save her, but it sort of derailed like what was almost the point of this movie because he goes through this whole arc of sort of like saying goodbye to her and trying to like move on and find these new
I
characters to be
know.
his family, and then he sort of derails that all at the end, which is kind of weird that they just sort of threw away almost the whole movie because of that. Um, and also, it sort of wastes her character because it's like, what was the point of her dying then? And she could have been like an important character in the movie, or she could have been utilized more. Because she's a good the actress who plays her, like I think does a great
Oh, she's
job.
great. No.
So it's sort of like I think she was kind of wasted in this movie, and it you know when you watch most of the movie, you're like, well, she was kind of wasted, and it was sort of a shame because the whole first movie was about him getting with her. But you see, like that her death impacts him, and it's sort of like part of his character and sort of helps him grow. Because this movie was sort of more about his growth than the first movie was. The first movie was kind of just showing us like what happens with him and how he becomes
Yeah.
Deadpool. And
And I just
um,
realized too, like for future generations that watch Deadpool 2 and Deadpool 1, you have to watch them in order. Like,
yeah,
because if you don't do that, you're gonna be very disappointed by Deadpool 1.
yeah. Um, but another thing too, though, is just that it's like him going back in time and saving her. Doesn't that like mean that like none of the movie happened?
Pretty much. I mean, like,
Or but like for the next movie, I mean, okay, we know the X-Men have a pretty messed up like timeline. Like it makes no sense anymore. And it's like gone all over the place. And so it's sort of like it's one of those universes where it's like who cares to a degree
right,
with the timeline, but why would you mess up the timeline of your own movie within the same movie? Like
right.
it's a little weird in my opinion. Now, granted, the other time travel jokes they do at the end are pretty great in my opinion. I like that he all the stuff with the Deadpool from X Men Origins Wolverine and the whole thing with the Green Lantern. Um, like I think all those jokes at the end were pretty great, and this movie definitely does leave you on
No,
like an
the ending
emotional
sequence
high.
is great, like for sure.
Yeah, no, and the thing is like the whole sequence on its own is really great, but
It is.
sort of
Like,
but I do think the time travel stuff makes the movie itself like the main story
yeah,
kind of pointless, which is
yeah.
kind of weird.
But it was actually really interesting though in the theater because when I saw it, we were basically like a test audience pretty much.
That's
So
cool. That's really cool.
all the jokes in the first act were had people laughing a lot. Towards the second and third act, a couple of people were laughing. I mean, it was still consistent, but not as much as the first act. Towards the end sequence, that got more laughs than anything that actually happened within the plot of the movie.
Well, it just sort of goes to show
That was
you
a
that.
really that was not a red flag to me, but like it was just really interesting to see that.
Well, but that's the thing is the first act and the third act were very joke heavy and very like action heavy, and the second act had a lot of action too, but it was the most
Yeah.
like plot driven part of the whole movie. And I think what I mean, I really thought this movie had an ambitious plot for a Deadpool movie, even though it was sort of just plopping him in another type of superhero scenario. I thought that like the ideas they were sort of challenging like Deadpool as a character, and I like that.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of what people like the most, like I think a story light Deadpool movie with a lot of jokes seems to be like what people want more so than anything, because I don't think people really
Yeah.
cared that much about the plot of this movie. I mean, you get sort of sucked into certain aspects of it, but because of that jokey nature, it sort of takes you back out of it a little bit. So
It does. So we're winding
wait.
down the
Before we rate it, what did you think of the Juggernaut?
I didn't care.
I don't know. I thought he was pretty awesome, especially when he splits Deadpool in half.
Yeah. I mean, he's there for literally like two scenes.
I think they redeemed him though from his last X-Men appearance.
Oh, see, I never saw X-Men, so I can't really like say.
You never saw any of the X-Men movies?
I saw the first one, but I never like
Have you
went
seen
through it.
have you seen Days of Future Past?
No.
Oh dang, Ivan, you got to watch a couple. Well, okay, the X-Men movies have varied a lot in quality, but you need to at least see the good ones because the good
Yeah.
ones are really good. Uh, and I'm not even like a huge comic book nerd. Like, I mean, I love all these Marvel movies and stuff, but I'm not like you know, an expert on comics. I like the X-Men movies. I've enjoyed them. Anyway, let's go to our rating. We're past our 15-minute mark, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, Ivan, what would you rate Deadpool 2?
I will rate this a 6 out of 10.
Nice, nice. I would say that I'm going to give Deadpool 2. It's somewhere between a 6 and a 7. You know what? I think I am going to settle on. I think I'm going to give it a 6, even though, which I mean, 6 is still good. I was going in tonight kind of thinking about what rating I was going to give it, and I was going in and I was thinking, oh, I'll probably give it a 7 or something. But just sort of talking about the issues we both had with it, I think that it settles at around a 6, but like a high 6.